Thomas Bradford sat in the grand lobby of the Bradford Hotel, the morning paper rustling in his hands. At 58, he had built an empire of luxury hotels across the country. The marble floors gleamed beneath crystal chandeliers, and everything around him spoke of success. Yet lately that success felt hollow. He was reading the financial section when a small voice interrupted him. "Excuse me, sir. Can you read this letter? It's very important." Thomas lowered his newspaper. Before him stood a little girl, no more than 4 years old, wearing a bright red dress with white lace trim and a matching bow in her blonde curls. She held out an envelope with both hands, her blue eyes earnest and hopeful. "Where are your parents, sweetheart?" Thomas asked, glancing around the lobby. "My mommy is talking to the lady at the desk," the child said, pointing toward the reception area. "But this is for you. Please read it." Something in her voice made him set down his paper. He took the envelope, noticing it was addressed simply, "To someone who can help." The handwriting was shaky, written by someone whose hands were no longer steady. Thomas opened the letter and began to read. The letter was from a woman named Margaret Wilson. She wrote that she was 73 years old and had been a housekeeper at his hotel 30 years ago. She explained that her granddaughter, Emma, was the little girl delivering this letter. Emma's mother, Sarah, was Margaret's daughter, a single parent who worked 2 jobs but still struggled to make ends meet. But that wasn't why Margaret was writing. She explained that she had been diagnosed with an illness that would take her soon. Her final wish was simple but seemingly impossible. She wanted to take Emma to the hotel's famous Christmas tea party, something she had watched from the kitchen during her years of service. She had never been able to afford it herself, and now she wanted to share that moment of magic with her granddaughter before she was gone. "I don't ask for charity," Margaret had written in her careful script. "I only ask if there might be some work I could do, some way to earn this for my Emma. She is so young, and she won't remember much of me. But perhaps she'll remember one afternoon of beauty and wonder. That would be enough." Thomas felt his throat tighten. He looked up at the little girl who was watching him with patient eyes. "Did your grandmother tell you what's in this letter?" he asked gently. Emma nodded. "Grandma Maggie wants to take me to a fancy tea party. She says there will be pretty cups and little cakes." She paused, then added softly, "Grandma is very sick. Mommy cries about it at night." In that moment, something shifted in Thomas's heart. He thought of his own grandmother, who had raised him after his parents died. She had cleaned houses to put food on the table, had worked her fingers to the bone so he could go to college. She had passed away 10 years ago, and not a day went by that he didn't miss her wisdom and love. "What's your name?" Thomas asked. "Emma Rose Wilson," she said proudly. "I'm 4 3/4." Thomas smiled. The first genuine smile he'd felt in weeks. "Well, Emma Rose Wilson, I think we can do something about this tea party." He stood and offered his hand. "Would you like to come with me to talk to your mother?" Emma took his hand trustingly, and together they walked to the reception desk. A young woman in her late 20s turned, her face flushing with embarrassment when she saw her daughter, holding the CEO's hand. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Bradford," Sarah said quickly. "I told Emma not to bother the guests. We were just inquiring about—" Thomas raised his hand gently. "Please don't apologize. Your daughter just delivered the most important correspondence I've received in years." He held up Margaret's letter. "Your mother wrote this?" Sarah's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know she must have sent Emma when I wasn't looking. Mr. Bradford, we're not asking for handouts. My mother has her pride. I just came to ask about employment opportunities, or maybe, how is Margaret doing?" Thomas asked quietly. Sarah's composure crumbled. "The doctors say she has a few months, maybe less. She's been so strong, but—" She glanced down at Emma, who was looking up at both of them with worried eyes. Thomas knelt down to Emma's level. "Emma, would you do me a favor? Would you and your grandmother and your mother be my guests at the Christmas tea party next Saturday? It would be my honor." "Really?" Emma's face lit up like a Christmas tree. "Grandma Maggie can really come?" "Really," Thomas confirmed. "And I'd like to meet her if that's all right with your mother." Sarah was openly crying now. "I don't know what to say. This means everything to her. To all of us." That Saturday, Thomas arranged for his car to pick up Margaret, Sarah, and Emma. When they arrived at the hotel, He was waiting in the lobby himself, something his staff found remarkable. The CEO never personally greeted guests. Margaret walked in slowly, leaning on a cane, her face thin but her eyes bright. When she saw Thomas, she stopped. "Mr. Bradford." "Little Tommy Bradford?" Thomas stared at her, and then memory flooded back. "Mrs. Wilson, you used to make me hot chocolate in the kitchen when my grandmother brought me here after school." "You remember," Margaret said softly, her eyes filling with tears. "You were just a boy, so serious, studying your books at that little table in the corner while your grandmother finished her shift." They stood there in the grand lobby, two people connected by threads of memory and kindness that had survived 30 years. "You were always kind to a lonely kid," Thomas said, his voice thick with emotion. "You and my grandmother, you both taught me that. Dignity has nothing to do with what you own and everything to do with how you treat people." The tea party that afternoon was something Emma would indeed remember all her life. But Thomas made sure it was more than just one afternoon. He hired Sarah to work in the hotel's administration office with a salary that would support her family. He arranged for Margaret to have the best medical care available. And though they couldn't cure her illness, they made sure she was comfortable. Most importantly, Thomas began spending time with them. He and Margaret would sit for hours, sharing stories about his grandmother, about the hotel's history, about life and its unexpected turns. "You know," Margaret told him one afternoon as they watched Emma play in the hotel garden, "my letter wasn't just about a tea party. I wanted Emma to see that the world has kindness in it, that sometimes when you ask for help, someone answers. That's a lesson worth more than money." "You taught me something too," Thomas replied. "I'd forgotten why I built all this. It wasn't supposed to be about profit margins and expansion plans. It was supposed to be about creating places where people feel welcome, where memories are made." Margaret passed away 3 months later, peacefully with Sarah and Emma by her side. At her funeral, Thomas spoke about a little boy in a kitchen, a kind housekeeper who made him hot chocolate, and the letter that reminded him what truly mattered. Emma kept that red dress, and every year on the anniversary of their first tea party, Thomas would host Emma and Sarah at the hotel. As Emma grew older, she never forgot the grandmother who taught her that courage meant asking for help when you needed it, and the businessman who taught her that true success meant answering that call. Thomas Bradford changed after that. His hotels became known not just for luxury, but for their kindness to staff and community. He established a foundation in Margaret's name, helping elderly workers who had fallen on hard times. And every morning, when he sat in that lobby reading his paper, he remembered a little girl in a red dress, holding a letter that shattered his walls and rebuilt his heart. Sometimes the most important correspondence we receive isn't a contract or a business proposal. Sometimes it's a grandmother's wish, delivered by a child, that reminds us we're all connected by the simple, profound need to be seen, to be heard, and to be kind.